The 21 hardest ACT math questions, according to PrepScholars.com. Yeah, let's just tackle this. Okay, so we are going to start going through all 21 questions that are considered the hardest ACT math questions according to PrepScholar.com. And with that, let's get started. So now we have the first question. The graph of the equation h equals negative a to the t squared plus bt plus c, which describes how the height h of a hit baseball changes over time, t, is shown below this graph here. If you alter only this equation's c term, which gives the height at time t equals 0, the alteration has an effect on which of the following? The first one, the h-intercept, the maximum value of h, and the t-intercept. So observe for time equals t. If you were to plug t is equals 0 to the equation, all you would be left with is just h equals c. And now it's asking what would the graph look like if we were to alter the c term, the term c. So pay attention with this graph that as you alter c, because this is a constant, you're also altering the height of the graph. So depending on c could be a let's say so we're just gonna call this let's just call this term c equals 2. Let's just call it that. So if c were to be less than 2, so that means this entire parabola here is going to shift downwards. So it would affect the height. It would also affect the maximum value. It would also affect the maximum value. So this would go down. The maximum value of h would go down, and so would the the t term. As time goes on, that will also decrease as well. So everything is playing into effect depending how the c term, the altercation is. Meaning, and if you want to take a look at this perspective as well, as c is bigger than 2, so 3, 4, 5, greater than 2, anything, it's going to rise. The height will increase, the maximum value will also increase, and also as time goes by with h equals t equals 0, well, that will also mean that everything will shift upwards. So everything is being played into effect. So that would mean this c will alter the h-intercept, the maximum value of h, and the t-intercept as well. So that means the answer to this problem is K. It would affect 1, 2, and 3, these. All right, and now we have number 2. For all real numbers b and c such that the product of c and 3 is b, which of the following expression represents the sum of c and 3 in terms of b? So now let's write as the product of c and 3 is b. So that would mean b is equal to 3 times c. And when we're saying if we set the sums of c and b in terms of b, so let's get in terms of b, so that would mean we would need to divide 3 to both sides, such that we have c is equal to b over 3. And now they're asking which of the following expressions represent this. So we have of the sum of c and 3, so we have c plus 3. Notice that we said c is equal to b over 3, so it'll be over 3. And don't forget, we are adding 3 as well, so you also have to add the 3 to both sides as well. So look at that. This would be equivalent to letter E. b over 3 is plus 3. Now for number 3, for all x in the domain of the function x plus 1 over x cubed minus x, this function is equivalent to which of the following? So pay attention here that you can actually factor out x. So we have x plus 1 divided by x times x squared minus 1. Now you can actually factor this out in products, so you would have x plus 1 times x plus 1 times x minus 1. And you can verify this yourself if you need to. You have x squared, then x minus 1, x times minus 1, so negative x, and then 1 times x, those terms cancel out, and then you have positive 1 times negative 1 gives you negative 1 right here. And notice that there's common terms in the numerator and denominator, so these will cross off, and we have 1 over x times x minus 1. And of course, this expression does not match with any of these, so you would have to distribute the x into the x minus 1. So now you would have 1 over x squared minus x. So the choice with this would have to be J. Number 4. For a project in Holmes economics class, Kurt is making a tablecloth for a circular table 3 feet in diameter. The finished tablecloth needs to hang down 5 inches over the edge of the table all the way around. To finish the edge of the tablecloth, Kurt will fold under and sew down 1 inch of the material all around the edge. Kirk is going to use a single piece of rectangular fabric that is 60 inches wide. What is the shortest length of fabric in inches Kirk could use to make the tablecloth without putting any separate pieces of fabric together? So we have a circular table, 3 feet. My circle is not good, I apologize for that, but just roll with it. 3 feet in diameter, so 3 feet here. And the question's asking how many inches, so let's convert 3 feet into inches. So 1 feet is 12 inches, so now 3 feet times 12 is 36 inches. And let's take a look at this perspective a little better. So I'm going to draw it like this way so you guys get a clear understanding of what I'm saying. So we're going to look at this at a different perspective. Over on this, imagine that this piece is the table, just looking in the shape as like it's like a rectangular. So this would be 36 inches. So it says that it will hang down 5 inches. So this will be 5 inch here, and 5 inch here. And then it also says he will sew down 1 inch of the tablecloth. So right here would be 1 inch, right here would be 1 inch, so that it would be sewn. So now it's all just simple addition. So now it would be 1 plus 5 plus 36 plus 5 plus 1, and that would be 48 inches. And the choice would be K. 48 inches would be the shortest length of fabric. Number 5. The equations of the two graphs shown below are y1 of t equals a1 sine b1 of t and y2 of t equals a2 cosine b2 t, where the constants b1 and b2 are both positive real numbers. Which of the following statement is true of the constants a1 and a2? So let's take a look at y1 of t. The height from here to down below, that is what is known as the amplitude. That is what A1 is. It measures the amplitude for this one. And notice how this one is the amplitude for Y2, so that is A2. So take a look at your choices. We have A, B, C, D, or E. Because observe that the height of the amplitude has to be bigger than 0, so you can exclude C, D, and E. 0 has to be the least. So now your choices to focus on are A and B. So because A2 is a smaller amplitude, that would have to mean A1 has a bigger amplitude, meaning A1 has to be a bigger number than A2. So with that, we have the equality right here. 0 is less than A1 is less than A2. For x such that 0 is less than x less than pi over 2, the expression of the square root of 1 minus cosine square of x divided by sine of x plus the square root of 1 minus sine of x square divided by cosine of x is equivalent to which of the following? 0, 1, 2, negative tangent x, or sine 2 of x. This expression kind of will look a little bit frightening, but have no fear. So remember in your trig laws, so that you have, based on this is also the how the parametric equation looks like for a circle. So the equation of that would be cosine square of x plus sine square of x equals 1. That is what the circle looks like in this case. And you can actually manipulate this around as well. So if you subtract sine of square of x to both sides, you have cosine square of x equals 1 minus sine square of x. And the same thing can be said for the other one. If you subtract cosine, so I'm going to write this again, plus sine of x square x equals 1. Subtract cosine square of x from both sides. You have sine square x equals 1 minus cosine square of x. So look at that. We can actually substitute, we can actually do a little bit of substitution. So now just substitute 1 minus cosine square of x for sine square of x divided by sine of x, then plus the square root, same thing as before, we can substitute, so we would have cosine square of x divided by cosine of x. And it's a square, and we got a square root, so it will cancel out the squares, so now we would have sine of x over sine of x plus cosine of x over cosine of x. Divide those, so you would have 1 plus 1 equals 2, so h. Number 7. Consider the functions f of x equal the square root of x and g of x equals 7x plus b. In the standard xy coordinate plane, y is equal to f of g of x passes through 4, 6. What is the value of b? So this is a composite function we have here. So this would mean you have g of x here, you would have to plug this equation right here into for x. So f of g of x equals the square root of 7x plus b. And now we are to find what b is. So we will have to set 6 equals to 7 and then plug into 4. So 6 equals the square root of 7 times 4 plus b. And then you could square both sides, so you get 36 equals 7 times 4, which is 28 plus b. Subtract 28 from both sides, and you get that b is equal to 8a. And then number 8. What is the real value of x in the equation log base 2 24 minus log base 2 3 equals log base 5 of x? So remember your log terms. We're just gonna call these a and then x. I'm defining a definition for a log. So we have log a y. This is equivalent to log a of x divided by y. If you want to verify your log rules, you feel free to check them out. In order to solve this, you need to understand this this definition of as part of your log terms. So now that that's out of the way, we can now rewrite this. So log of base 2 24 minus log 2 3 is equivalent to log 2 of 24 divided by 3, which is equal to log 2 of 8. Now, what is this equivalent to? Your base right here is 2, so you write 2. Now, in order to find what this is, you have to know how the base works. So, write this. So you would have to find what the exponent number is for it to be equivalent. So feel free to do this in your head. So x would actually have to be equal to 3. So so now that the exponent is 3, so now log base of 2 of 8 is now equal to 3. So now we have 3 is equal to log 5 of x. So now with that, we have to solve for x. So because 3 is the exponent, 5 is the base, so now we have 5 to the 3 is equal to x. So that would mean 5 times 5 times 5 is equal to 125, which J is our answer. Number 9. In the complex plane, the horizontal axis is called the real axis and the vertical axis is called the imaginary axis. The complex number a plus bi graph in the complex plane is comparable to the point AB graph in the standard xy coordinate plane. The modulus of the complex number a plus bi is given by the square root of a squared plus b squared, which of the complex numbers z1, z2, c3, z4, and z5 has the greatest modulus. Basically, to put this simply, which one of these coordinate points have the biggest distance. That is what the modulus is the distance. A long way to do this is you can actually plot you can give an estimate of the coordinates and then plug in your numbers from there. But really, all you need to know is modulus is the distance. So because this is in complex terms, we are measuring the distance from points all the way to from the origin to the points. So the question's asking, which of these coordinates has the bigger distance? This is a short distance. That's a relatively short distance. So Z1 actually has the biggest modulus. As you can tell, it's a lot long. The distance is a lot bigger compared to all the other coordinate points. So our answer would be F. Which of the following, number 9, 10, which of the following is a rational number? I actually just did a video on why the square root of 2 is an irrational number. So we define rational numbers. Remember that. So guess what? Square root of 2. You already know that was a rational number based on that video you saw from why I proved square root of 2 is irrational. So you know this does not work. Same thing for pi, because pi is 3.14. Pi is considered an irrational number. So if you know your numbers, if you know the difference between a rational and an irrational, then you're set. That's all you gotta find. Same thing, square root of 7, that's also given out irrational. 5 over 25, even though this could be rewritten as the square root of 5 divided by 5 over the 5 square root of 2. This would cancel out and you would just get 1 over 5. However, it's still going to give you an irrational number in this case. Now let's take a look at the last choice. The answer is E without a doubt, but I'll show you. Another way to rewrite this with the square root of 64 over 49 is the square root of 64 divided by the square root of 49. Now you might notice, now you know that 64 and 49 are actually perfect squares with 8 square divided by 7 square, and it will just be 8 over 7. Remember, rational numbers are defined as a over b, where a and b could be any sort of integers, and also that b does not equal 0, otherwise it would be undefined. I'll write that down just for a reminder. Any integer, b cannot equal 0. That's what rational numbers are. An integer from 100 through 999 inclusive is to be chosen at random. What is the probability that the number chosen will have 0 as at least one digit? At least one digit. So the 1 digits they're saying specifically. So let's actually count this. So we have, remember, 100 is inclusive, so we have to include 100. So we have 100, 200, 300, 400, 500, 600, 700, 800, 900. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Apologies for that. I actually read the question wrong, and they're actually explaining at least one digit. So it'll also have to include not just the ones digit, aka the units digit, but also the tens digit as well. So we would have to focus on the alright, so we have to look through 100 to 109. So that will include 10 digits that has the zeros in it. So like, because you have 100, 101, 102, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, all those have the zeros and 10 digits. And take into account that because we're looking at the hundreds as well, so that's 9 of them. So that will have to mean 10 times 9 equals 90 of the digits that had the 0 and the 10th digit. Now let's take a look for let's focus on the 0 as the units digit. So now we have 110, 120, 130, 140, 150, 160, 170, 180, and then 190. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 of those digits have the ones digits. So, and we're looking at the hundreds as well, so that means 9 times 9 is equal to 81. So now we add those two terms here. 90 plus 81 equals 171 possible that's the possible outcomes. Divided by the number between 999, then this is including 100. So let's subtract that from 1. So 999 minus 99 is equal to 900. So now you would now have the probability of 171 divided by 900. So your answer choice would be D. In the figure below, line Q in the standard xy coordinate plane has equations -2x plus y equals 1 and intersects line R, which is distinct from line Q at a point on the x-axis. The angles angle A and angle B formed by these lines and the x-axis are congruent. What is the slope of line R? So we're given the equation line Q is equal to -2x plus y equals 1. But let's actually rewrite this into like a proper slope-intercept form. So we want that y by itself on one side and then all the x terms and other constant numbers on the other side. So you could just add 2x to both sides. So the line Q would have the equation y equals 2x plus 1. Now, we're being asked, what is the slope of line R right here? We are given that the angles angle A and angle B are congruent to each other. So what does this mean? This would mean the slope here is the opposite of line Q's slope. So this would be a positive slope of 2. This would mean it'll have a negative slope of 2. So R would be has a slope of -2. Another thing to note is be careful with negative reciprocals. I know you would hear this a lot as well, but remember in order for slopes to have negative reciprocals, two lines must be perpendicular to each other, meaning that when two lines cross, they have to form a 90-degree angle with each other. Even though this does not even though we know that this is we know that it's not a 90-degree angle, but make sure try not to get those terms mixed up. Even though they are congruent to each other, but they are not perpendicular just by analysis. In the right triangle below, 0 is less than B is less than A. One of the angle measures in the triangle is inverse tangent A over B. What is the cosine of inverse tangent of A over B? So recall that the formula is tangent inverse A over B is actually equal to theta. So theta equals inverse tangent -1A or inverse tangent of A over B, which is equivalent to saying the tangent theta is equal to A over B. So tangent, remember from I believe it's you'll probably learn this in geometry class. Tangent would have to mean opposite over adjacent. So if A is the opposite, A would have the opposite here, and then B would be adjacent and have to be next side. So that would mean this has to be theta right here. So now we can substitute cosine theta. So cosine of theta is adjacent over hypotenuse. So because A and B are the base legs, you can see with a 90-degree angle, it's specified here. So A and B have to be base legs. Hypotenuse will have to be square root of A squared plus B squared. So cosine of theta will have to be adjacent, so it would be B, and then over hypotenuse, which is this. So your choice will be D, B divided by the square root of A squared plus B squared. For every positive 2-digit number x with tens digit t and units digit u, let y be a 2-digit number formed by reversing the digits of x. Which of the following expressions is equivalent to x minus y? So we can actually just pick some numbers to do this and then go by each answer choice so that it matches. Let's just say we have 15. So 15. So that would mean the tens digit t, so t would equal 1, and then the units digit would be 5. And then that would be x. So y is the opposite, so that'd be 51, where what is it? T is equal to 5. Well, actually, just ignore that. We got that t is equal to 1 and u is equal to 5. So x minus y is equal to 15 minus 51. And I believe that's negative 36. 15 minus 31. Let me think. 51 minus 15, that's 36. So flip that, that's the negative. So yes, negative 36. So now all you left to do is you could just plug in t equals 1, u equals 5 into each of these choices to see which one would match. So let's try the first one. 9, then 1 minus 5. Oh, what's this? 9 times negative 4 is equal to 36. So this would match. So with this case, you don't have to take a look at the rest, as there's only one choice, so BF. Now, if you want to verify this yourself, you can actually try each answer choice. But I can actually just tell that it's not going to result in the same number as for this. So now we can actually just move on. If x and y are real numbers which such that x is greater than 1 and y is less than negative 1, then which of the following inequalities must be true? So in this case, you can actually just pick out any numbers you want. So, but observe that because x is greater than 1, so x would have to be a positive number. And then y is less than negative 1, this will have to be a negative number. So let's try this. Now, we have a positive. So for a, we have x divided by y is greater than 1. But remember, you have a positive x, so a positive divided by a negative. It's going to give you a negative. So this statement is not true. It is specifying saying a negative is greater than 1. That is not true. Now we have the absolute value of x squared is greater than the absolute value of y. Now, a positive, now in this case, you can actually try the smallest negative number you can pick from. And don't forget, remember, absolute values, they will always be positive numbers. So if you were to pick a positive, so let's actually try one example. Let's try x equals 2 and then y equals negative 3. So take a look at this. We have the positive x squared, so that's 4, but then is greater than negative 3, so that becomes positive 3. That's true, but now we can also try a way smaller negative number, smaller negative number. So we have y, let's say y is equal to negative 100, but let's keep x equals 2. So x squared, that would be 4, and then this will be 100. So it's not necessarily true for all cases, depending on the numbers you pick. So this is not true. Now, if you were to try this one, a positive x, we're going to stick with these numbers, x equals 2 and then y equals 100. So 2 divided by 3 minus 5. That would give you, let me see, 2 divided by 3, and then let's rewrite this as 15 divided by 3. That would give you negative 12, or no, negative 13. Yeah, negative 13 over 3. Now let's try negative 100. So negative 100 divided by 3 minus 15 over 3. This is relatively equivalent to about 4 point something, so we're just going to call it 4. And then for this one, negative 100 divided by 3, you know that's going to be negative 33.333 and so on. So this will be, this number will be greater than the other number. So this is actually true, so C. And you can verify the rest as well. This is not true because you can actually plug negative 100 squared, you're going to get a positive number, so that's going to be a way bigger number than this. That's not true. And then same thing for this one. Because you have a negative exponent, it could be written as a fraction. So you would have 1 divided by x squared is greater than 1 over y squared. Now if you were to plug a bigger number, then that would mean in this case you would actually have to try a different number rather than this, but we're not going to go forward with that since we have that this is true. So in the equation x squared plus mx plus n equals 0, m and n are integers. The only possible value for x is -3. What is the value of m? So notice that you have x squared plus mx plus n is equal to 0, which is the quadratic function. You can actually factor this out such that it gets a perfect square, but also observe because x is equal to -3. So factors would have to be x plus 3 and x plus 3, because multiplying this out, FOILing will give you the same format of the quadratic equation right here. So we've FOILed this together. We have x squared, x times 3, 3x, and then 3x again plus 6x, then 3 times 3 plus 9. And what do you know? M will have to be 6 and n would be 9. So the value of m would have to be 6. 17. A formula to estimate the monthly payment P dollars on a short-term loan is P equals half of ARY plus A divided by 12Y, where A dollars is the amount of the loan, R is the annual interest rate expressed as a decimal, and Y years is the length of the loan. When A is multiplied by 2, what is the effect on P? So let's actually just try some numbers. We're gonna say the A is equal to $100, R is interest rate, so we'll just call it 0.1, and then Y, just call that 2 years. So let's just plug this into the equation. So we have 100, then times 0.1, then times 2, plus 100 divided by 12 times 2. 100 times 0.1, that is 10. Then times 2. 0.2. 100 times 0.1. Give me 1 second. I need a calculator for this. Okay, I'm back. So I'm gonna plug this into my phone for the calculator. I can't do mental math like that. So we have 0.5 times 100 times 0.1 times 2, which is 10. And then plus 100, then divided by 24. Okay, so we have 110 divided by 24, that is equal to 4.58. Now, when A is multiplied by 2, so that would mean now A becomes $200. So equal P, write that down. So now we have P is equal to now 200 times 0.1 times 2 plus 200 divided by 12 times 2, and I'm gonna plug this into the calculator again. 200 times 0.1, 0.5 times 200 times 0.1 times 2, so it's 20. And plus 200, 220, then divided by 24, 220 divided by 24, we have 9.16, repeat. And look at this. This is P actually doubles, because if you notice, P 9.166, repeat, divided by 4.58, 3 and repeat so on, is actually relatively close to 2. So what does this mean? P is being multiplied by 2. So your answer would be D. I wish I could do mental math in my head, but you know, that's not really the case for everything. Now, 18. The points E, 6, 4, and F, 14, 12 lie in the standard XY coordinate planes shown below. Point D lies on EF, between E and F, such that the length of EF is 4 times the length of DE. What are the coordinates of D? So here's an interesting approach to this. We can actually do a rise over run, because we can actually measure the slope. So we're gonna draw a triangle like this. But now notice, rise over run. So you see that 6 to 14, that means the height changes by 8. And then 4 to 12, this direction, the run went by 8 as well. So what is this? This is actually a isosceles triangle. They both have the same base length. So now we can actually solve for the hypotenuse length. If you notice from your triangle rules, this is because this is isosceles triangles, they have a 45, 45, 90 degree relationship law. So meaning if they have the same base length, the hypotenuse would be the same base length multiplied by the square root of 2. So that means this length would be from E to F is the square root of 8 times the square root of 2. But notice that point D lies on the line EF, so D has the line somewhere in between here. With that, EF is the length of EF, so 8 square root of 2 is equal to 4 times the length of DE. So that would mean we have to divide 4 to both sides. So that would mean the length of DE is equal to 2 times the square root of 2. So the length would be 2 times the square root of 2. But look at this. This is actually kind of equivalent to, again, another isosceles triangle as well. So we'll call this 2 square root of 2. So that would also mean both the base lengths have to be 2 and 2. Rise over run as well. Now with that, now we can actually just add. So 6 plus 2, comma 4 plus 2. So that would mean the coordinates of D would have to be 8, 6. So our answer choice would be G. Oh, we're almost done. I'm already sweating. Apologize for that. Which of the following is the solution statement for the inequality shown below? -5 is less than 1 minus 3x is less than 10. So this is actually a pretty simple approach to do this. So all you have to do is just make sure you have x by itself in the center to get that inequality. So we can subtract 1. So we have, excuse me. So you have -5 minus 1. So that's -6 equals -3x, or meant to write like that. And then 10 minus 1, 9. Now we can divide -3 to both sides so that we have 2x, and then what is it? -3. Don't forget, when you're dividing negative numbers, you have to switch the sign as well. So I forgot to do that. So this should be this way, and it should be that way. And you have to be careful how you read the inequality as well. Just because you have 2 is greater than x, is greater than -3, even though that doesn't show, but that would also mean the signs would flip as the numbers flip as well. So this solution is equivalent to letter H. -3 is less than x is less than 2. This is the same as this. 20. The functions y equals sine of x and y equals sine of x plus a plus b for constants a and b are graphed in the standard xy coordinate plane below. The functions have the same maximum value. One of the following statements about the values of a and b is true. Which statement is it? So observe that y is equals sine of x. It's your standard sine graph, which it would be this one where I'm tracing. And now you have y is equal to sine of x plus a plus b. But however, take a look at letter B. Do you remember, based on the first question we were asked, what would happen if we were to change a constant term? It affects the height. So it would have to be a vertical shift. But notice how the graphs between the two are going at a horizontal shift. So what does that mean? B would have to be equal to 0 because there is no change in the vertical shift. It only affects the horizontal shift. Meaning the horizontal shift only you have to pay attention to inside the parentheses of the graph. So this would mean that the only choice that's available for that case would have to be A. A is less than 0 and B is equal to 0. Now you can actually verify this yourself for the rest of the answer choices as well. Unless they ask you on the test, calculators permit it, you can always try different numbers, try other different possibilities. You can try whatever method you can, but you just have to use your you have to analyze the graph carefully, and then based on the equations to figure out the correlations between that. And now we're on to our last question, number 21. Which of the following number line graphs shows the solution set to the inequality the absolute value of x minus 5 is less than -1? This is actually a really easy question. Why is that? Now pay attention to this. You have the absolute value of x minus 5. So what does that mean? Absolute values always will be positive. But take a look at this. You have a positive number is less than -1. So that would have to mean the absolute value of x minus 5 has to be a negative value. But that's not true. But this is not possible because absolute values must be positive no matter what x term, no matter what number for x you use, negative or positive, the solution has to be a positive. So what does this mean? That means it's an empty set. So no numbers will satisfy the following solutions here. It's an empty set. And that's gonna wrap it up. Nice. So that was the 21 hardest math ACT questions. Yeah, that shit's not difficult. It really wasn't. I think any math major students can also attest to that as well. You know, math is a difficult subject to begin with, so you know, not everybody has the ability to solve math questions easily. You know, it's a difficult subject in its own right. So I mean, it's not for everybody as well. That's also another thing, you know. But I guess I can't really get a saying as that I think that's easy, because of course everyone knows me that I am a math major, and of course it's very easy for me to perform and then demonstrate these problems with that quick of a knowledge. So that's pretty much just gonna wrap it up. If you feel that my explanations were a bit confusing or complicated to understand, no worries. I can provide a link in the description and to the PrepScholars.com with the hardest ACT questions and their explanations. If you feel you need a in-depth understanding of each of these questions, then feel free to click on the link in the description below. So that's pretty much just gonna wrap it up for today's video. If you're new to the channel, subscribe, give a like, comment. Again, subscribe to the channel if you're new. I also did a vlog recently that'll go up hopefully soon. I'll actually put it in one of the end cards as one of my recent videos once that comes up. And you should definitely check out the I did a video on principle of mathematic inductions. That's kind of an interesting one that I did. I don't think it was it's kind of like one of the earliest of math topics you're going to learn when it comes to proofs. So you should definitely check that out if you haven't. Then other than that, so thank you guys so much for watching. And no, seriously, those math questions were not hard. I can exaggerate that as far as I want to, and I probably will. So it's not hard. You know, I think. All right, let's just end the video in mid-sentence.